Afternoon. Today we're doing some narrative design and we're building the map and we're sort of questioning this mission list as well and basically building out like what's going to happen because it relates to how the map is going to look. I think the next thing I want to do is draw the map. Well, I say want to do. I don't want to do any of this. I want to do design gameplay and program gameplay. But we need a map. I know that there needs to be a map. And I'm thinking about what makes a good map, and I'm thinking about what, like, where things are, and just how this map screen is going to look. What does a mission icon look like? And yeah, what do these towns look like? And how is this all going to look? And this matters because one of the next things I want to do is start working on the level, the levels, the stages as I call them, where basically I want to do all the stages, partly just because that's like something I don't really want to do, something I don't particularly enjoy, but it needs to be done, needs some drawing, and I'm just like, let's get that chunky horrible one off the list, and then next time I look at my list it'll be okay. And I don't need to get it done to completion, I just need to get it done. I need to get it in there so that it's all set up and we've got the code behind, so like the script and all of these places and missions, so that's like set up in the game. We won't worry about dialogue so much, but we'll just worry about like, you need to do this, you need to do that, and then then I can start, like, as I'm playtesting, I can kind of do playthroughs where I'm like, because I don't want a playthrough of the story to take 20 hours. I want it to take like 6 hours, if that, like it's just a little something. And so yeah, do mission 1 and then go to the human town, do the tutorial, see all the things, and how much money do I end up with, how much currency do I end up with after mission 1, and is that enough to like do the tutorial, and is it all balanced, and do we have all the things we need, and just how does it feel to play through the game, to play through the content of the game. Because of course I could just have everything unlocked and play with it and see the final form of the game, but I want this progression. I want this feeling of like these different factions are ramping up their power and they're all going to come clashing at the middle. We do have one off here, which is the Demon Tower, Demon Palace, which is which is not going to appear straight away. So I'm actually not going to worry about it for now. But I know that it's going to sit between the other three factions because this spot here becomes site of much war, and that's the perfect place for the demons to to raise their tower. So one of the little things that I thought of straight away is that there should be a coast here, and because that's how the orcs came. They came by boat. I guess I'm thinking a little bit of Vikings. I do live in Suffolk. I used to live in London, but now I live in Suffolk. And Suffolk is the site of basically the Viking invasion. We've got the river. So actually, like, where do I live? I guess there's a river going out at Ipswich, which is like here. So I live like here, basically, around here. Am I doxing myself like that? I don't know. But the idea is I live sort of where this happened, basically. And yeah, it is. There are a lot of parallels with the Viking invasion back in the day. My knowledge of that basically comes from the show Vikings. That's where I know most of what I know there. I'm not a history buff, so I know that the Vikings came, and whoever was king at the time was a bit of a wimp, and decided to pay off the Vikings, to say, let's just give them some money and they'll leave. So I'm just thinking about the placement of these. This story is basically a situation like that, where there's a Viking invasion and the humans are deciding to like pay them off and kind of ignoring the problem as they kind of pillage around the area where they've appeared. And our Prince Randar, says, F that. I'm gonna defy the king, and I'm gonna go out and attack these invaders. And so he attacks the invaders. So he goes out. Mission 1 is here. Meets the orcs in the field. Fights them. Goes back. Builds up the human town. Meets up with his allies, where basically a few people come to join his banner. They're sort of inspired by the fact that he's taken things into his own hands and want to join him. So then you spend a bit of money to build up the town and basically build the bulk of your army. And then you go back out to mission 2, where you have to fight against the orcs, basically. Yeah, and this time it's like it's a bit more for real. You've unlocked a bit more stuff. You've got a good chance to win, and actually you can choose your character. You can choose your hero. So what you might do is like do mission 2 a couple times. Like you might not. You need to get to 10 minutes. So it's like the first real challenge. The mission 1 is a freebie. You can't lose that mission. You're supposed to lose it. Like you win this mission by dying. Mission 2, you have to actually survive 10 minutes. So that's 10 out of the maximum 20. And then we have so yeah, then you do that, fight them back, and then we switch perspective to the orcs. So what we need is kind of like a big icon which points to the next thing you have to do. So the next thing you have to do might be to do a mission, or the next thing you have to do might be to click on the town to do a like town building tutorial, or the orc camp to go and meet the orcs and kind of get access to their town and so on. Graveyard, it will always be there, but it'll be grayed out. And I know, so that's that, right? So yeah, when we play as the orcs. We'll start by making you click here and getting the orc camp and just kind of seeing what's up there. And then you can go into mission 3 where you play as either Pick or Lur, the lower ranking orcs. And you have to survive, let's say 10 minutes. Survive for 10 minutes as Pick or Lur. Right? So that's not much. It's not difficult to survive for 10 minutes. And you can keep going if you want, but in order to succeed the mission, you just have to make it to 10 minutes. But of course, yeah, you can stick around and try and earn more currency, you know, a bit like a side quest, just sticking around for a bit longer. And then we'll have the sort of dialogue where basically Crual, the chief, and Dushatar, like the shaman, acknowledge the threat from Randar and decide to take the field themselves. And we just got a whole bunch of missions that happen here on the plains. We're just kind of learning the game. And then, like, the next bit will basically be like, yeah, you have to build the walls in your town. And again, that's a point of, narrative. It's like, are we going to make you actually spend the money so that you have to grind a couple missions to do it, or are we just going to like make you do it, or just make it that it happens? Like, okay, the human town gains some walls, or maybe it has walls to begin with and we don't think about that, but basically it's like the humans now have to like do something at town and then defend. That's mission 5. We have to defend against the orcs. And it's just like basically you've got access to a new level here. And again, the goal is going to be to survive for 10 minutes and you can play as any human. And then we do the bridge, survive 10 minutes, play as any orc. And of course, as we're doing these things, we're unlocking these parts. So you will unlock the bridge as a level that you can play in, as a stage, by completing this mission. And then now you have access to it in free mode, which will be a button somewhere. I mean, I guess we'll be zoomed in on the map most of the time, so the button will just always be there at the bottom. Free play. Where you can just play as any character, against any character, on any stage. As long as you've unlocked them. So then we have mission 6. So yeah, mission 5 and mission 6, you have this kind of parity. This kind of... yeah, like this mirror thing. The only thing I'm looking at now, just so this is the whole point of this stream, is going through this and discussing it kind of with myself. Anyone who joins the streams, welcome to join in as well. So straight away, I'm thinking one of these missions is kind of redundant. Like this could just be one. So you do tutorial, you do humans versus orcs on the plains, then you do orcs versus humans on the plains, and I think might be better just to let you pick any character. We are going to have other stuff, like there's going to be like side missions where basically you have to do a mission as a character. So each character will have their own little side quest, and by doing that side quest, you unlock their starting talent. So they'll now start with a talent, whereas they didn't before. Just to sort of, be a significant upgrade for a character that adds to their character, that tells you a bit more about them. Because of course, if a character has armor, that tells you a bit about him. If a character has, you know what I mean. If they have crit, maybe they're a rogue. If the daggers and the rogues as allies wasn't enough, but it just fleshes out the character a bit more. It's nice. So I'm just gonna go ahead and like do that. And then we unlock new. So we unlock new faction. Then we unlock new stage, and then we unlock another new stage, and we're doing the missions as these characters, and we've got this clear setup of orcs and humans are fighting each other. So it's like the orc, and I guess the story will be the orcs make a push, they actually get to the town, and it's this big mission to defend it. And then of course Randar, in true character, will say they've just like crashed against our walls, basically. They've all just we've just completely ruined their army by like luring them here, basically. So we need to press the attack now. Let's go. And perhaps one of his advisors will say, don't do that. That's a bit like, we don't quite have the men. We only just survived this fight. It's like, no, this is when they're going to be their weakest. Let's go get them. So then you do mission 6. Oh, but then you're going to play as the orcs fighting off the humans. Again, you're always kind of defending, which is on theme with the gameplay. And you unlock the bridge, and you have to fight off the humans at the bridge. But again, you're going to be playing as sort of the winning team. You successfully fight back the humans. So this battle is really like... there's taking lots of casualties on both sides. They're not at a standstill. They're not like bumping heads with each other on the field and then rooting each other. The shit is like they're dying. There's a lot of casualties on both sides. And so then we switch back to Randar, so we'll go back to the town. So again, at that point, the icon will be saying click on the town, and when you click on the town, you'll get that cutscene where Sean, that's his old name, where Randar will explain, or like that's when he'll be approached by the undead, basically. So we'll introduce the undead characters, and they're going to say, Randar, you can get like the old soldiers of the oldie times. They're still willing to fight for you. They owe you a debt. Very Lord of the Rings, basically. The Army of the Dead. We need to go to the graveyard and unlock this power. And then, or like the tomb of, what do we call the Forgotten Soldiers? Tomb of the Unknown, I think, or Tomb of the Nameless. I think that's in France. Thinking of something like that, like Tomb of the Great War. But if we're talking fantasy, we kind of we need a name that's like Tomb of Asgal, like name the thing so it sounds fantastical. If you just name it what it is, that's boring. I like that as a gamer who's interested in gameplay. That's what I like. Tomb of the Great War, and it sort of begs this question of this greater war that happened back in the day, and are we going to explore that Tomb of the? And it also creates space to go. Like, it creates like a little thread of lore that people might be into, I don't know if I'm being cynical here, but like, I think like if there was this, because that's the world that I live in. It's like I remember being taught about World War One and Two at school, and being told that it was this incredible thing. And it's like all through my life, the more I learn about modern politics and just history and everything, I'm like, this war was a huge deal. Obviously, it was. This is a huge deal. Like post-industrial era, like you have industrialization, and then things heat up, and then the whole world goes to war basically over these big ideologies with these big new weapons. It's devastating. It changed the world that we live in today. Like so much about our economy today and all of that comes from what happened in this great war. So if we're creating a fantasy world, like we can tell that, and I need it for the gameplay. We need somewhere for the undead to come from. So that's the origin point. Talking about narrative design, the origin point is gameplay. And then what we're trying to do is create a narrative that supports that gameplay. And then I guess the thing that we're trying to do is have fun while we do it. And express ourselves as we do it. And that's what makes a good story for a game, I think. So we need undead. So I'm not just randomly thinking of this great war out of nowhere or this, undead faction out of nowhere. We need undead because reviving enemies is cool. That's the origin point. So then we say we have this graveyard. Oh, you're right, Jack. Thanks for joining again. I hope you don't mind. We're not coding today. We're doing world and narrative design, which is generally not my wheelhouse. So yeah, I'm just explaining. We need undead in the game because undead are cool, just for the visual, but also the gameplay of like reviving enemies and having them fight for you. And yes, you can do that in this game. And it's not just we summon an undead in the place of the unit that we killed. We're actually summoning the dead unit, and it fights as it did in life. And I've actually drawn an undead version of every human and every orc, so that you can see what they look like, so that they look different when they're undead. It's like, so if you revive a human mage, it looks like a human mage, but with a skeleton instead of, but it's got the hat and the beard and everything. Anyway, and it does the moves, like, so you can revive enemy healers, which is interesting. Anyway, so we need that, and then what we need is a justification for this graveyard to exist, and then what we need, and a good justification, and a cool one, is that it's the tomb of some great war that happened many years ago, right? So yeah, and that creates like more lore to dive into. That's like a really natural, organic, like, okay, this is a war that we can get players interested in potentially. Like, this is some big war that happened, of the Great War. Need a name for the Great War. Oh, well, I guess if you're getting bored of the tutorial, that's great news, because the next step is to start just programming your game. So you'll be thinking of features and adding them one by one. So it's like, I'm thinking of like aiming a bazooka. So like you would go into bazooka mode where the controls change, and now suddenly there's a little crosshair where I'm aiming the mouse, and then I guess we choose how far the bazooka fires, the trajectory of the bazooka missile, based on what angle was the shot fired at and what power was the shot fired at. Just as a starting point, that could be fun. Anyway, so that's good news that you're getting bored of the tutorial, I think. So we need a name for this great war, but we can like shroud this in mystery. We don't want to like tell everything that there is to know about the great war that happened 100 years ago. We would need a name for it. And it needs to be like, yeah, there was this great war that happened. So we can reference that. We can reference that in the dialogue. There was a great war. And everyone's still kind of a bit shocked from it, but it was long enough ago that it's like, these are nameless soldiers. I guess like Tomb of the Nameless is cool, right? Because again, that does have that reference to it does have that reference to the tomb, like the tomb in France. What is that called? I'm really showing my ignorance here, but it's like, what is the name of the nameless, like tomb nameless of the nameless soldier in France? Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the Arc de Triomphe. And it holds an unidentified World War I soldier and features an eternal flame. And I think the idea is like we're honouring the people whose names we've forgotten, basically. So I think something like Tomb of the Nameless, but what if we like, and then this is like an interesting narrative design decision. Should I like translate Nameless into another language? Like, what is, so like Gaelic translate or something? I don't know. Like what is the Latin for nameless? I guess I just need to get like a Latin translator. Innominatus. Ah, see, that's cool. That sounds cool. But then, like, what's the Latin for tomb? Thing is, I want to go like I don't have a sepulchrum. A sepulchrum. So now I understand like why Diablo is so cool, because it's just like if there's ever a name, like you just use the Latin. Like I don't know if sepulchrum exists in. It sounds like something I've heard of in Diablo, and it's just like a cool sounding name for a tomb. So like sepulchrum. So like Latin translator. So I'm going to type in tomb of, stop, something in the way, tomb of the nameless. Sepulchrum ignotorum. Okay. And then kind of what I want to do, and again, this is like cheap kind of like hacks to get something that feels Tolkien-esque, is like, can I get Lord of the Rings Elvish translator? English to Elvish translator. Okay, no. Okay, so if I type Tomb of the Nameless, Nimueneth, Tomb of the Unknown, Nimueneth, Ebned Inueneth. See, like, so I'm not just going to take that, but I want a name that sounds like some cool fantasy shit that one of the characters is then going to describe what it is. You meet the Tomb of the Nameless, the soul, like not just saying, oh, that's the Tomb of the Nameless. They'll say like, oh, that's that place is full of death, like something like that. Yeah, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So yeah, that's in France under the Arc de Triomphe, and the Arc de Triomphe is like this big arch. So it's like a big deal. So there's like historical precedent for having a tomb specifically dedicated to those who don't whose names we don't remember. So Elvish says Ebned. So this is my English to Elvish translator. Ebned Inuaneth. So like which part is which? A tomb. Meth. Okay, like, what if I just went, like... So, like, sepulchrum... Sepulchrum innominata. See, that's just bad Latin, though. I'm thinking, like... What I want is to kind of make something that sounds a bit like Latin or, you know, like Gaelic or something. I mean, I'm not ruling out just calling it Tomb of the Nameless just to keep it simple, because I'm also finding my line. Like, I'm not... Yeah, and I read, like, so in the Arc de Triomphe, so in the tomb, they exhumed 8 soldiers from, like, different places who they couldn't, like, figure out who it was, and they picked one at random to then be the tomb of the unknown, which is, like, that's kind of badass. Like, it's kind of cool, isn't it? Right? So yeah, we're doing that. We're nicking that. It's the tomb, and it's going to be like a big tomb of like lots of dead soldiers, but like we're calling it that, and it's like to commemorate this great war, and there's lots of undead there to be revived, and there's like the crown of command, which allows you to control the undead, and basically the idea is that they like so. Tomb the Nameless. So we've got a name. So like let's think about what we need to think about here. So need a better name? Question mark. And then we also need to think about why would they be revived? Why would they fight for us? Right? So I don't know if it's a good thing that we're starting at the end point, which is I want undead skeletons, and I want to do necromancy. I want to revive my enemy and make them fight for me. And working our way backwards from there to, okay, then we're going to have a tomb where this power is held, and we're going to have to understand what power is it? Like, why would the crown of command exist? Right? So there is a crown of command. So that's the answer to that. Crown of command. What is that? Where did it come from? So this is like... So this adds to it. Crown of the old king who died in this great battle. Right? There we've got something. So this is the crown that was held by Randar's ancient ancestor who could control, who sent his army into battle and like was like among the first to die, which kind of links up with Randar's character as well. You see, this is why we do this. So that's quite fun. Crown of the old king who died in this great battle. He fought in the vanguard and was among the first to die, but his spirit inspired his army to win. Who were they fighting? Who were they fighting? So why would they fight for us? That's answered here, because Randar has the right to and that crown, and the men so loved their king that they would do anything for him. The men so loved their king that they would do. So what was it? I thought of a line for this a while ago. It's like these men pledged. This is cool. I'm not even being like. I like this. These men pledged their lives to you. Now they will pledge their deaths. I love that. I mean, you know, up my own ass here, but I do like that. Men so loved their king that they would do anything for him. Therefore, the one who wears the crown. So therefore, if one from the line, if the line, yeah, if, what do you call them? One of the king's forebears wears this crown, they may command men in death. It's not that, like, obviously that's not my best work writing. I'm just getting the point across. Yeah, they'll give their souls to him, like. They will give their souls, like, so, because you can imagine, like, the love of the people, like, this was the good one, like, this king was the great king whom Randar respects the most. Okay, so that makes me think Tomb of the Nameless. No, Tomb of this king. This fucking guy. Like, this was the guy. Like, this is King Arthur, you know? Artorias. Like, so this is where you get into, like, Artorias. And, like, they did that in... So so that's an example. That's an example. So, in Dark Souls, they wanted to tell a bit of a story like this. In Dark Souls, they knew they had a strong undead theme. And so they brought in this character who was this great knight, who is basically King Arthur, but they called him Artorias. So what they did is they took the name and they kind of spun it up a bit and made it their own. But obviously, it's a straight reference. I mean, I think, and then you could have Artur, like, it's King Arthur. Let's say, like, this was the guy. Who was this king? So that follows on from here. Who was this king? So this was the guy. This is my granddad, basically. He was called Barney. That's not a very good name for for like a fantasy character. Barney, the ancient king Barney. No, he had his faults, but yeah. Anyway, the old guy, the old patriarch, you know, like Paternus, you know, like who was this king? Need a name. But let's call him. We just need a working title. So we don't just have to keep saying the king. And oh yeah, like who are they fighting? That's the other one that's here. So this is kind of like, you know, like the reverence we kind of have for Churchill as well, which would be that direct connect with World War One and Two. Is so in England we have that, like, we respect Churchill. You know, a lot of people like point out his flaws, but he has kind of gained a halo effect in that a lot of people don't agree with him on a lot of things, but everyone kind of agrees that Churchill was like the guy who helped us win the war. You know, he was that guy. So he's respected in England, even if so yeah, who was this king? Need a name. And he was like defeated this big army of invaders. Who were the invaders? So that's the next thing we need to figure out. Like, what did this king do that was so impressive? He fought a big war. Who did he fight that war against? Could be a civil war. Just could be a war against other humans, or it could be a war against, like, like, especially if you do this whole... Sorry, my mind's kind of going, like... So, like, orcs are descended from elves. That's very Tolkien. They were fighting dark elves, or evil elves, or just elves. Dark elves. The dark elves, and so like elves are gone. Oh, elves are gone, right? So we're not going to have elves in this game, and we're not going to see them or anything. We might not ever discover this. Like, where would this come up in the talk? Like, be like the oh yeah, the ancient king who fought in the war against the dark elves. Yeah, that works. You know, you could come up with a name for the dark elves. And say, oh, the war against the Machanga, and then you kind of only find, and then you kind of have to do a bit of digging to find out that the Machanga are the dark elves. Need name the should we go like yeah, let's go back to our Mordor language translator. So this is a lot of fun. I love this. Oh, the interface has changed. Right, this is really cool. So if I say dark elves, what's elf? Golog. Really? That's horrible. Okay, and then let's get our Elven translator out. Okay, so we've got this one as well. So what if we say, what is elf in Elfish? Wait, that's not the one I had earlier. The one I had earlier was nicer. Yeah, that takes me to like some... There we go. This is the one. So we say, yeah, go away, go away. I hate these. I don't know, like, but we can make it distinct enough. I don't know if Elvish is copyrighted, but we can make it distinct enough. So we can say like, yeah, dark elves. Dörhelbin. More. Okay, I like where that's going. More sounds like death. The Morelin. More Elin. That works, even though that is right on the nose. But what if we say, like, what would be the elfish word for elf? Or the orcish word? Like, what would be the human word for elf? Elin. I mean, it makes sense that elvish would start with EL. Because, you know, obviously, like, we would have got, like, we would have say, what are you called? And they'd be like, elves. And they'd be like, what are you called? Humans. So... the elfish, but they would have said Elin. What are you? I'm an Elin. But didn't they give us our language? Like, we're not going full Tolkien here, but we're going very close to Tolkien. But I like more. The prefix more works really well because obviously these are undead. They we're in that sort of space. It's not undead they were fighting. The more. I mean. That's a good question. Is Lord of the Rings Elvish copyrighted? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So it can result in legal action if I use this. But so... But I'm just getting inspiration here, I guess. Like, more... Like, we can go for, like, Latin for dark, like oscura or something, you know? Latin... We'll get a Latin translator up as well, and we'll go dark. Obscurus, yeah. So then you get into that, like, clear obscure, you know? But that does kind of take place in a realish world. I mean, it's a painted world, but that painted world presumably exists in. I mean, it's got Paris in it. You know, it's a real place. So, but we need a name. But we're not going to use that because that is Elvish. And Dark Elves. I mean, elves aren't copyrighted, I don't think. Dark Elves went bad, decided to kill the humans. Or like, we don't know why they fought. We're not gonna go into that. Like, the characters aren't going to talk about this, and the item descriptions aren't going to say much about it. But we do have the orcs are descended from elves, and I don't know if we're going to mention that. That's one of the things about lore building, I think. Like, just because something isn't going to come up in the story does not mean we don't include it as part of our like lore exploration. So who is this king? Like, should have the word Ran in it? Are we saying that all descendants of... And who is what is the name of the current king? Who is the current king? Yeah, I wouldn't want to offend an orc for sure. Yeah, like Uruk-hai sounds fun. I'm not going to invent my own language for this game. I don't know, because the thing is, I do like the idea of putting all my fantasy games basically in the same... They're going to be in the same universe. They could be in like completely different timelines, or like not timelines. We're not in multiverse shit, but I mean different parts of history, so different ages. So there's like this. Yeah, this is taking place in the same universe as Blacksmith. That's the only other fantasy game I've made. All of my games ought to take. I just love that idea. We don't have to reference it, but we wouldn't want to put anything that rules out the possibility that this could have happened in the same universe. So what is the name of the current king? So I know all of this, so I'm not making stickies for it because I know it. But basically, current king is weak and doesn't, or wise, and doesn't want to fight the orcs, wants to pay them off instead. His son, Randar, disagrees and goes out to fight the orcs. That's basically the human story as it stands. So what do we need to know about like the current king? Is like, so they've had a time of peace since this happened. Like, this war brought peace. And if we... So are we doing that? Like, we're saying that Randar... So it's the Ran in the name. So this would be like... Ran something. Randy. Random. Ranthar. Right? And this guy would be like Ran... Ranthar sounds really cool. I'm going to give that to the cool character who isn't the weak king. So yeah, that'll be Ranthar. And this guy is going to be called Rangar. Like, it's kind of funny, but I don't really mind. Ranthar, Rangar, and Randar. Maybe it shouldn't be an R, like Ran. Or maybe this guy doesn't have Ran in his name. Like, he's not like one of the good ones, you know? Rantir. Yeah, that's fine. But Randar and Ranthar, like, they sound very similar, but Randar is the, like, true sort of successor. The true successor, yeah, forebear. The true son of the true grandson of Ranthar. Great grandson. And Rantir is like a bit of a fool. Okay. And then that's like setting in stone for this fantasy universe that, like, yeah, the kings have Ran in their name. And so we definitely can't call the female character Ranaya, because then you'll think she's their sister or something. So Janaya is fine. Jania. However you want to pronounce it. I think I'm going to have to change that. But anyway, that doesn't matter. What matters is how it relates to the map. So yeah, we've got this, and also, like, one of the things I want to do is start drawing all of the levels, just because I want to get that out of the way, and start drawing the buildings and this map. So before I start doing that, I need to, like, know as much as I can about these things, even though I'm not super hot on narrative design. Yeah, this obviously helps, you know. So who are they fighting? The Dark Elves, and we don't need to know more than that. Just so that they can say, because obviously it means something if it was a civil war, and it means something if it was a war against the orcs, because, like, the orcs are back. But no, I feel like it should be different. But then I love this little bit that the orcs are descended from elves, so it is kind of like a continuation of this war, right? That there is a parallel there. So we play humans versus undead. We don't get to play as the undead yet. As we follow, and I guess you have to. And yeah, I'm getting rid of these. I think it's just survive 10 minutes. And we'll kind of balance the game around, if you only survive for 10 minutes, you will have enough currency to unlock a bit and basically survive the next mission. But you might have to do it a couple times in order to, like, make your team strong enough to win the next mission, kind of thing. But if you survive 20 minutes, and if you have a few goes, you'll unlock it quicker. You'll have an easier time. But yeah, the idea is you can redo these missions anytime, or just do free play and gain currency for the faction that you want to win the next fight as. So yeah, you do humans versus undead, and then you do orcs maybe versus humans versus undead, where you're like, you know that they're trying to stop you. I mean, sorry, you know that the humans are trying to get the crown of command, and you're trying to stop them from doing that. And then once, like, Randar will get the crown, will control the undead, and become Dark Randar. And basically he's got the undead now. So, like, you have to play as him fighting against the orcs. But then it's like the humans will turn on you. So, like, all of the other supporting cast around Randar will say, no, fuck this. I'm not supporting some evil king who brings back the dead. That's the humans attack him, so you play as the undead versus humans. And then I feel like this one's probably unnecessary. So it's like we're kind of doing a nice parity of, like, any yeah, we don't need another one to hammer that home. It's like survive for, so undead versus orcs, undead versus humans. Um, and so then basically, like, yeah, you manage to defeat the orcs or a bunch of them, you sort of defeat the humans, and it's all chaos. And then basically, I don't know if. I think I want this to be possible, is for a three-way battle. That might be ambitious. That might be something to leave for DLC. That might be like, I just don't know if I have time to make that work. Call me lazy or whatever. It's just a matter of like, I need to think about how much time I have to actually like release this game in good time. Like I'm giving a lot here for the price. I don't know if I'm good, and it just adds a whole new dimension basically. Like I have to do lots of. I have to balance what it's like to play as the orcs and the humans. It might be easy. It might just be like, well, just switch it on, like. So we just run both co-routines and just see how that goes, and maybe kind of like, and it might only be a little bit work to get it balanced. So that, but basically you end up in a big three-way fight, which might have just been covered by all of this. But like, yeah, all of them end up fighting each other, even if that's just a cutscene, or even if that's just for this mission. And it's like, you can choose any character that you like. You can play as the orcs, you can play as the humans, you can play as the undead, and you've got to fight the other two factions, basically. And that's a big battle. And during that battle, this is full of spoilers here, during that battle, we do Warcraft 2, where in the middle of the battle, everything's all kicking off, death and destruction everywhere, and demons start appearing. So I don't know if they rain from the sky or if they come from below. I think in Warcraft they come from the sky, like meteors falling. I think I'm going to have them come from below. So like big spouts of like evil energy start coming out the ground, and from those demons start appearing. So then we're actually going to have a four-way battle, but that's kind of just for the story, and it's like, oh shit, and the demons just come and wreck everything. And then we find we immediately switch perspective to the demons, and you can play as the demons against the other three factions, and you can play as any of the demons except for the Lord. And then we basically do. So we're at the end of the game here, so it makes sense that everything's all kicking off. Then it's like a full-on. I think the undead go over. Yeah, what do we have here? Necromancer is surprised. So like. Basically, the undead join with the demons. Maybe like Felicity, like the basically one of the. We're getting into the deep story here, but basically, Felicity is one of the demon characters. She's the one who convinces you to do all this, along with Basma, and Felicity would make sense for her to like steal the crown or something. So then the crown goes to the demons. And then it's like humans and orcs must team up against demons and undead. I'm not sure about that, actually. What I want is for, like... So we played as the demons versus everyone else, and now it's kind of like... playing against multiple factions isn't going to be too hard. Playing as more than one faction is going to be gnarly, because that's going to throw the balance way out of whack. That's going to make the balance crazy. To be playing as the humans and the orcs, for example. So I'll put a question mark on this one, basically. And then undead versus demons. So at this point, the demons... the undead decide that they don't want to fight for the demons. They want to fight against the demons. And then it's like you can pick any faction to fight against the demons, where you have to survive a full 20 minutes, fight the demon lords, and that's the final battle. But it's kind of imagined that you can play, like all the factions are there. We might just have some simple thing where like the other faction will just like randomly spawn units based on what time it is, you know, that will fight with you. Shouldn't be too difficult. Like, but it would be really fun to see, like, as we kind of escalate to a big like 4v4, big like 2v2s, and like 3v1. You know, like it gets crazy, and we mess with the mechanics of the game. The demons are very simple in terms of story. They want power. You don't have to explain much more than that when it comes to demons. Demons want power. They're going to do anything to get it. Their power comes from sacrifice and misery and destruction. And basically, that's how they get born, is when the humans, undead, and orcs are all fighting each other, the demons appear. They come from out the ground. And it's important that they're in the middle of the three other faction bases. Basically, that's part of the visual that tells you the story. And so mission 8, and then yeah, I've said this happens in Barons, but I'm thinking like it's going to be a bit boring just to go back to Plains. But if we just have like this big battlefield where like everything's so it's like, what would we call it? Not the Barons though, because that would be like in the Orc territory, and we're not going there. But like the Moors, I think I wrote it down somewhere. Like I wanted like the battleground, that like the ravaged battleground, basically. Where there's like, it's not the plains, you don't have trees, you have like burnt trees, and you've got like bits of armor on the floor and swords in the ground. So it's a bit like the plains. It's another. It's functionally the plains, but I think it should be visually different. I don't have enough more idea. Like a lot of the different levels, they have different functionality, but the plains is basically just going to be the plains. The battleground. Yeah, I mean, it could be like maybe even different rules, you know. But let's just call this the battleground, or the scorched lands, where it's basically going to be like an evil plains, and we do a lot of battles there as part of the story. So yeah, we have scorched lands. We have not used the Orc camp. We have not used Hell. Hell would be like, I want 8, and I want the missions. So where are we at here? We've deleted 2, so that would put us at 14. I like multiples of 4, but I guess it's not that necessary. So we have like 14 chapters, and to round it up to 15, we would have. So I've numbered these, but we got rid of some. Should use it like a spreadsheet, but I don't mind doing this. I mean, it takes time, but I kind of need time for my brain to recover a little bit. 8, 9, 10. Yeah, and I'm glad I got rid of those missions that we don't actually need. And then 14, and then 15, if you want to, that's 15 is basically free play. So you can say that there's 15 missions in the games. In the game. I like that the undead are below, because that just gives that theme of being buried. You know, you go down below for the undead, you go across the river for the orcs. And it's basically just going to be these mission icons. You can replay them. You can replay them as you please, or do free play, whichever one you prefer. To grind, or you're just going to want to do the latest thing, which is going to be to click to complete a mission, or just click on a town and maybe build something, or just watch a cutscene in order to progress. So we need like a clear singular icon that can fit around this, or a building, or a unlock within a building, to tell you that that is the next thing you have to do if you want to progress the story. and it will always be visible, I guess, you know. It will always be visible from the map. So that's good, yeah. So that's a thing that we have to have. For the map icons, I'm thinking that's one of the things we have to do. So yeah, we've done enough narrative design, I think. We've refined the missions down. We only have the ones that are necessary. I think it's a nice build up, and we figured out what stages we need to make all of this work. We're not using the orc camp. Hell makes sense to have as an after level, but the orc camp we simply don't use. The arena would also kind of make sense as a level that wouldn't necessarily be part of the story, or perhaps that would be a good place for the special missions, right? That would be a good place for I can spend a bit of time thinking about what would the special missions be for each character in terms of location. Like, would they need anything new? Actually, I don't think so. If we have the arena, we could have and that would be in a orc themed arena. But again, same with the ramparts. The way it works at the moment is you've got this big image which represents the horde, which is just and it can be, and the color of it depends on which faction you're fighting against. So you could pretend to be the orcs fighting against humans at the ramparts, and you've just got this blue thing coming at you. Or if you're fighting against the demons, it's red. Orcs, it's green. Undead, it's black. And then it would be the same thing in the arena, where the audience of the arena would be would match the color of the faction you're fighting against. So you could make that work for any character, and that's 8, and I like the magic number 8, and that's enough different places to be having. Progress. Hey, Cositaro, thanks for joining again. Progress on the game's going well. I've got a bunch of things on the list that are very sticky, horrible tasks that are going to take a long time and stretch my brain in weird ways. So I'm just starting by, I think I'm going to do stages next, and I'm going to do this map next. I don't particularly enjoy trying to draw, or at least it takes me a lot to kind of get there. But yeah, we've kind of fleshed out some of the narrative here today in terms of how it affects the map, and I'm quite happy with what we've got. So we've figured out what levels, what stages we're going to have, what we need to tell the story and kind of deliver a good spread. We've plotted out the missions, and we've just kind of, I guess, double-checked them and gone through them all, and I've explained them all, which helps me to figure out, I don't know, it just helps me to explain it verbally and just kind of go through it again. I did this a while ago, and I'm just kind of having another look, because now it's actually relevant. We've actually made it to the point where we're doing story type stuff. So the next step, I think, is to draw this map. So just moving on, the next... So up here in mountains, this would be where this river comes from. Where there might be dwarfs and shit, but we're not doing dwarfs. We're keeping that for sequels and DLC, I'm afraid. I'm just not adding another faction. Adding a faction takes a lot of work. I have to work with the 4 that we have. I think that's enough. And elves as this ancient thing. That's if we'd ever told the story of this great war that happened, that would be cool. Humans versus elves. And then maybe the story of the elves cast out from the land, slowly turning into orcs. That would be cool. That's a sort of place to go. But yeah, so no dwarves, no elves. But just to give the map colour, I guess I should go ahead and suggest those mountains. Just so that we've got something to draw. Just so I'm not drawing a big green plain. Right? Cliffs. and then like I guess that works because it sort of puts this human town like perhaps nestled in the mountains, which again, this is good that I'm thinking of this because this makes me think of Helm's Deep, and it helps me get a shape for the town, where it's like, yeah, it's nestled into the mountains, and that kind of gives me something to draw, and that means I'm not just drawing generic town number 3. I'm drawing a town that means something given its geography. Mining town. Let's call it Ironwell. That's the name of the town from my first game, Blacksmith. Nestled in the mountains. Let's do it. Ironwell is the site of many things. It's like Makerfield this year. You know, it's like the it's just a small town, but becomes the battleground for the much wider conflict. All right. And then we've got... You could then imagine like woods. So I need to just kind of roughly draw that in. That's like a dark green, where you can sort of imagine like just kind of providing like a natural barrier and a natural kind of framing to this kind of space that we're in. And then I need to look at like what makes a map look like a map. So I'm going to have to draw a sprite that is, and I need to figure out the resolution that I'm going to be working with. That is I need to draw this map, which is horrific because I can't draw. I'm kind of learning. I've drawn a few things that are not bad, I don't think. But I've never drawn a map. Never in my life. Maybe when I was a kid, and you don't want to know how bad those were. Like when I was a young teenager writing stupid fantasy books. But even then I was, I don't want to do this. I don't like drawing maps. I could commission this. It wouldn't be too expensive. Just say, look, here's the style of my game. I need a map. It needs to be these dimensions, and it needs to, and I just show them this, and they draw me a map in the style that I've done so far. And it doesn't have to be that close to it, but I guess the rules would be like you have to think about everything's kind of two-tone. We don't really do three-tone. We do like two-tone, and this is the resolution we use. It doesn't necessarily have to be 16 by 9 either, which is how I've done it. I don't think we're ever going to fully zoom out. I think this is about the maximum that I would allow you to zoom out. Like, otherwise we'll be, you know, it's like this is, you know, and you'll have to click and drag or like use WSD to navigate, just like a Total War or something. 2D with these bits sticking out a bit. Should I commission that? I don't know. Well, I'm gonna go for a quick smoke. I'll be back in 5, and we'll get as far as we can with this today. few more things to consider then. I should get my water, be right back. Yeah, so right, so I think we made progress today. That's the first thing. I have to tell myself that we have actually achieved something today. Usually, like, I think of narrative and stuff like that as like, that's not work. That's something I do while other things are happening. But yeah, this is progress. We've refined the missions and we're clear that these are the missions. It would make sense if this area here. Yeah, so let's plot this out still. So this would be like mission 9. Oh wait, so that's 1 and 2 and 3. In fact, let's just move them. So that's 1, 2, and 3 go there in the planes. 4 and 5 are these ones. Six and 7 are these ones. Okay, so 8 and 9. Okay. Yeah, 8 and 9. And then 10. So then we've actually got 3 here. 11, 12. Over here. And then we've got 13 and 14. Oh wait. Oh yeah, we've actually got 4 here then. Alright. And we can revisit that. We can easily put them in different places, but I'm just trying to think of a minimum at this point. Like, what do we actually need? And I don't want to use the planes again. That is too lazy. But we can have 4 missions in this space. It's a kind of big battleground where lots of shit happens, lots of combo fights, like. And then as basically we're just throwing different missions at the player before the final mission in the Demon Palace. And then we've got free play, which would just be part of the UI. And so the player will navigate around the map, they click on a mission, press play, the mission starts, or they click on a base, and it takes them to the base where they can upgrade that faction. And I guess the land here would be a bit more greyish. Like what you want kind of is like gradient. So like the color would be like greyish, dark green grass, like the color of the grass that we use in the graveyard level. And then sort of green and lush, but with like patches here, with like trees over here, edges of mountains up here, the river, and the orc camp sitting there with like beach. I'll draw beach. cliffs. Yeah, I guess I'll draw this like, what color should I do this? Let's go like blue even. Dark gray, like. With like maybe a bit more forest over here. And then there's this space feels kind of empty, doesn't it? I guess it just suggests more. I don't know. And so basically, and I'm thinking, so the other big decision I have to make is, should I commission someone to make this for me? Because this one just might be a bit beyond me. But the thing is, if I do it, it's kind of a bit more meaningful and I'm learning how to do it. So like, first step, figure out the resolution. Choose resolution. No, that's a job, because I can't just do it randomly. I have to kind of, what is the most zoomed in point? Okay, what should the pixels per, per screen pixel be? And yeah, what is the resolution? And then I need to draw the map background, where basically I just draw this without any of the icons on it. And I guess start simple and build it up over time. I mean, it was amazing to me when I worked at Jagex and I asked the artists there to draw the map that I had for Havenhithe. They just did it. Took them like a day. It was amazing, and it was so good, and it was really cool. I don't know if they used like some weird magic tools. I guess maybe they did, or some stuff, but it was so good. It was so good, and it was so much fun just to draw that and see it happen. And yeah, I can kind of draw it to this, and maybe we can make it a bit more square. So actually I can go ahead and just, we're going to lose the lines a bit, but what if we made the forest a bit more? So let's try that again. And then it gets a bit more like, yeah, the grass kind of maybe gradients into sort of grey there. And we've got trees here, and maybe like a few trees here, just kind of painting these spaces. And maybe like if the forest was kind of stretching out from here a bit, just to kind of, well, no, I mean, I don't know what should be there, but something should be there, right? We've already got all the bits that we need for the levels, but like, yeah, what if just in general there was a bit of like forest poking out the mountain, and it really just frames this area as like where everything's happening, with the undead kind of just being underneath and the demon palace appearing later. So we just feel like we're doing all these battles here. I guess we should just like, right? I don't know if I'm going to show hidden mission icons. No, we'll have them hidden if you haven't unlocked the mission. If you don't meet the prerequisites, it's just not there. And then it's like, if we're zoomed in and the mission icon that you need is somewhere else, we could have a little arrow pointing to it. That would be nice. Just so you always know what to do to proceed in the story. Yeah. Then we just got like a decent spread here. Different color on each side on each edge of the page. Nice open plains in the middle where you'd imagine would be a site for many a great battle. And yeah, looking good, I think. Okay, that's progress. That is progress. It sort of doesn't feel like work as much as coding does, but if the next step was to say, draw the mission icon, draw next story mission ring needs to go around various objects. So it's just like we need to design, so I'm guessing it's going to be like a gold like frame with like a little word on it or like a little symbol on it, where I can, what's like the symbol for this is the next thing, I guess. Yeah, like a gold sort of plate with like a sort of embossed arrow at the top pointing like, so this is your next bit, or like a circle, it's a circle around it with like a little arrow. It's like, that's your next mission, that's the next thing you have to click on from the map or from anywhere to get to the next bit to unlock the next dialogue. Cool. So you would do mission 1, and that's the only thing you can click on. The cities will be grayed out, and then you'll do mission 1, and then on the map the big icon will be around Ironwell. You click on Ironwell, and and then you'll get the dialogue explaining to you how the town works, and then there'll be a big icon on the first building you have to build, and so on. That's your tutorial arrow. That's the storyline. Anyway, I'm gonna get some water. Be right back. Okay, I think I'm basically like there with this for what I wanted. I think the next step really is to just start drawing the map. Faction banners. Yeah, I think it would be fun to like show, like you leave the banner in the place. Yeah, faction banners. Base sprites. Yeah. Mission icon. And then that would be everything for the map. And if we can get that done, that'll be a good day's work. Maybe even a couple days. Maybe even a whole week. I don't know. I'm going to try and draw it like a simple version, and then we can kind of touch it up as we go so that it doesn't take forever and we can get back to the fun stuff. But yeah, okay. I think I'm actually going to leave this stream there. So thanks for everyone who joined. Really appreciate it. Got like loads of subscribers yesterday, so I'm really pleased with that. Thanks everyone for the support. I really, really appreciate it. It makes me realise that this probably isn't a waste of time. It's actually nice just to talk through things as I make them. But yeah, I hope you've been enjoying this series, and I'll be back tomorrow morning. So have a good afternoon. Cheers, bye.